Hello, this is Linda Vettrus-Nichols, and I have with me the most amazing person, Steena Marie. Welcome, Steena.
Hi, Linda. Thank you for welcoming me and having me today.
I would always have you. You know that. We always have such good, juicy conversations, and I am thrilled that we can actually record one around women who run with the wolves. That's just like blowing my mind, right? How about you?
Yeah, like how many other conversations have already happened that we've missed capturing?
Lord, yeah. All right, so first of all, what a combination, Steena, the ugly duckling and the obscene goddess. Really? What's that all about?
I like to be contrary.
Yes.
uh, I love the story of the ugly duckling first because there's such, in Women Who Run with the Wolves, it's such a rich telling of the unmothered mother and learning how to mother ourselves. And that's like that deep nourishment and that like psyche healing that we all have to go through in order to, have this wild woman presence and to like really know ourselves. And so the ugly duckling, I love that that's a story we hear as kids.
Yeah.
And that like everybody knows the ugly duckling story, but when you read it in Women Who Run with the Wolves, it takes on this whole new life of its own where you really get it.
You really
Yeah. And I think that then the obscene goddess, it's like the ugly duckling is a little bit heavier to me. Like it's a little bit thicker, read. It's can bring up a lot of old wounds and, things to look at. And I feel like the obscene goddess is the perfect balance to that because it reminds us that, we can lighten things up. We can laugh. We can, even when things are really tragic and hard, that laughter is this healing medicine that we have access to. And that is, it's easy. It's a simple way for us to continue to grow and to elevate. And I think that it's wonderful to have both. Like I'm a very serious, deep thinking, intellectual person, and I'm also an obscene goddess. So.
Indeed. Well, yeah, what was it? Dimitri's daughter, Persephone was taken into the underworld by, was it Hades then? You remember, came along and picked her up and took her away?
Yeah, took her down in his chariot into the underworld.
Yeah, and her mom like couldn't find her and did like everything in her power, so to speak, and kind of had her meltdown, her nervous breakdown at the well. And then along comes the obscene goddess. Oh, you do such a good job at describing the obscene goddess. The part I love is the nipples are actually, there's eyes there. And that's interesting to me because even the old-fashioned ships used to have sort of a woman, almost a mermaid type woman with her breasts just really sticking out. So in mythology, the eyes being the breast kind of thing. So that was the eyes of this woman is like helping them to watch out for danger and stuff. Do you ever think about that?
I just love like when we really get into our bodies and like start to feel things, it's like you realize how sensitive your nipples are. And I think it's really interesting that, I rarely wear a bra. Like I only wear a bra if it's going to be seen or pretty, but we wear these bras that are, heavily padded and they have these like harsh underwires and like we're pretty like constrictive and restraining to this part of our bodies.
Right.
And so we lose that. It's like putting a blindfold on another pair of eyes. And I know when I stopped wearing a bra and I would like go to hug my, relative or like an uncle or somebody that's like, there's not a, erotic or sexual connection with, and you would feel like something brush your nipples or you would just have this heightened sensitivity.
Right.
And it took a while for me to get comfortable with that.
I bet.
Get comfortable with seeing and feeling in that way, and to, you know, to allow that like information. So I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, and for years, I didn't know that when women were aroused, their nipples got hard, and if they had thin shirts, you could see them. Like, no one had called that to my attention, and I just hadn't thought about it. And I remember being with a friend in some other state, visiting her grandma, and there was a zoo across the street, and we were like, let's not wear our bras. Like early high school. We thought that was the most daring thing. Of course, I'm from the era of burn your bra. Oh, we felt weird. We didn't want anybody to look at us too closely, and we basically stayed just a little bit, and then we kind of ran back home to her grandma's house.
Yeah, well, it's interesting too. Like my first memories of being really young was like as soon as there was a raised nipple, you know, like you get that breast bud tissue forming, and there's a little hard lump, and it's like, oh, my breasts are starting to develop. And as soon as it's noticeable, that's deemed an appropriate time for you to start wearing a bra.
Yeah,
and so
right.
at a very, very young age, we're taught, you know, the natural contours of your body, the way that your body is not okay and needs to be
Covered.
Changed. The shape needs to be changed. It needs to be covered. Exactly. And
So,
what's really interesting to me is that like babies, you know, the reason that the nipple is so dark is so that a baby with not very good vision right out of the womb, they can tell that there's a dark thing. They're going to move towards the contrast, you know, and they're going to move towards that. And so I think it's interesting, like that being the eyes, that like the first thing the baby is attracted to is essentially our second pair of eyes. It's like we see, they feel that we see them. They feel that, you know, and then they're connecting that with their eyes. They're going towards that, like, I see this. And so there's that like eye contact almost.
That's so beautiful, because the mother is the eyes for her child, and so the child's eyes aren't working, and so the mother is offering her eyes to the child in the nipple. Whoa!
Oh,
cool!
Goosebumps!
Goosebumps! Here we go. Okay, so the number one thing that I know you love to tell, especially women, is make yourself a priority. So tell us more, especially connected to the stories.
Oh, well, yeah. So coming off of what we were just talking about, like, you know, the nipples and like the not wearing a bra thing, like I find it really interesting, the things that I've read about like the health and the practice of wearing a bra and like, you know, correlations to breast tissue health and all of this. But then there's this societal discomfort. And this is, you know, this goes across the board, that there are things that we're taught to do, ways that we're taught to act. And it's like, you know, we sacrifice ourselves, we put other people first. We're so concerned with like how uncomfortable it's going to make someone feel if we just show up, right? If I just show up and I'm like, yep, these are my nipples, like that's going to make people uncomfortable. That's going to make people pull back. And so when we start to say, you know what, fuck it, like I'm going to make myself the priority. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to show up just raw and unfiltered. That's such a deep level of making ourselves a priority. It's not just, it's not just like, oh, I'm going to make myself a priority by like taking a Zumba class or, you know, taking a bath, which like those are steps, right? I've got old journal entries of me struggling with like the guilt of leaving my family for an evening to go to a Zumba class.
Yeah, right.
And so, you know, you take that step though, and you deal with the inner stuff that comes up so that you can keep moving forward and keep doing that more and more.
Yeah, and women who work full time, it's more difficult for them to get through that stage, that guilt stage of initiation, because their time with their family is really limited. So to add something that they do just for themselves, they don't really realize that is just a stage of initiation that we all go through, and theirs gets quite delayed, right? Because they're working full time. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I'm not working, I guess, quite like corporate full-time hours, but you know, running a business, I'm with the kids as soon as they're out of school, basically every day for the evening. you know, cooking dinner every night, and I cook real meals, like, you know, and just keeping up with the house and relationships and all of these things. And it's like, you know, I have to remind myself that, like, when I'm present with my kids, I'm fully present with them.
Yeah.
I intentionally invest in them. I'm doing things that are substantial and quality, so that if I'm gone for a weekend, you know, visiting a partner or something, like, I don't have to then like guilt myself for not being there. It's like, I'm there 5 days of the week, like every evening, you know, fully present with them.
Right.
And, you know, so those times that I'm not, they miss me, I miss them. But there's this confidence that they have that, like, mom's coming back, mom's here, mom's available.
Nice, healthy
and
break. Healthy.
And yeah, I'll just go into, I feel like, you know, saying no, it's like when you actually look at, like, what are the things that are a priority for me, that make me a priority, that make my desires a priority, then you start saying no to things that are just mediocre.
Yeah.
And I was telling somebody this last night. I was like, if something is on my calendar, it's there because I want it there, because it's a priority. I don't do things purely out of obligation.
Right.
I don't do things because I feel like I have a duty, or because it's going to, you know, help me to fit in somehow.
Yeah.
I went through a couple of years of like, oh, I'm so introverted. And then I was like, oh, I actually just don't like any of my friends. Like, and it was because I wasn't aligned with myself. I wasn't showing up as myself. And so the people that I had around me were kind of like watered down, you know, they were watered down relationships for me, because I could only be like 25% of myself instead of 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So yeah, fitting in and then being able to say no and figuring out what does make you happy, all those are so key. And then you were alluding to that, you know, find your soul tribe, which is so much of what was going on in the Ugly Duckling. That was a swan, you know, felt like it was so ugly and out of place, or even being told it was. And like, you're really ugly for a duck. He's like, yeah, because I'm a swan. And I'm really getting a sense of that now, in like, where are people's vibrations? And now I have my like absolute draw the line. I will not work with someone in, you know, like this area of vibration. It's not fair to them, and it kills me. It's so exhausting. And you know, it's interesting, the people that pay you the less expect the most on top of it.
Right.
Who vibrate the least expect the most. Right?
Yeah, I remember there's a funny little chart that I found that's, you know, pricings for services, and it's like, the more that someone wants to do of the project, the more they have to pay you, you know, because you're going to end up babysitting them the whole time. It's like, if you just want me to do the whole thing, I only have to charge you $100. If you want to do the whole thing and like hire me to do it, then it's going to be like $5,000.
That is hysterical. I love your pricing. That's so cool. Yeah, and I just tell my clients, like, I don't even usually give you an assignment, because, you know, it's most likely not going to get done anyways. So, you know, and if there's something that you're charging off, you know, going to go do, that's like fine. And if it doesn't get done, that's like just fine. And we'll do it together, because I'm like a hands-on project coach, right? You get the damn book done in 30 days, just like one of the examples, right? I'll change your website for you, not a problem. You want a new about page? I'm on it, right? And it's done. Then it's done. So that's the one thing we don't do well as women, is delegate, right? And I've been a well-supported woman, so, right? It's like, they don't even have to stop and think to delegate. I'm just like right there for them, right?
Yeah, it's something that I was thinking, is kind of going back to the ugly duckling, the swan, feeling like they don't fit in.
Yeah.
The thing that really sticks out to me in the story is when the ugly duckling, or the swan, is watching the swans fly over, you know, and watching them and hearing their sound. And there's this like instinctive like longing, you know, there's this like, I should be there kind of moment. And the duckling ignores the feeling and sticks around and gets frozen in the lake.
Yeah, because it already shoulded on itself. Instead of I belong there, it's like I should be there. Well, you're not going to get there with that attitude.
Well, I should be there, but also I shouldn't want that. Like I should be here. Yeah. It's just like
no
this, yeah, it wasn't like I feel this, it must be right, I'm following it. It's like all of this. Yeah. It's like, oh, but I want to fit in and I want to, be here. And like, this is where I belong. Mm-hmm. And, really the like instinctual belonging was that pull that like, I hear the song of my soul tribe. I hear my people, Yeah. And this has been a reoccurring conversation that I've had with several copywriting clients this week, is that when you're looking at like, when you want to find your soul tribe, when you want to reach a new goal, when you want a, romantic relationship that blows your mind, like whatever that is, whatever that transformation is, it's like we have no clue what lies on the other side.
Nope.
And so once you're there, you're like, oh my God, I didn't know this was even possible.
Yeah.
It's like, what? And so that little bit of instinct, that little bit of a pull, if you do not pay attention to that, then that's what you're missing out on.
Totally.
It's like, that's all we have. It's not like we feel like, oh, choice A, choice B, which one do I want? Yep. It's like choice A, or like this mysterious, like, I don't really know what this next thing is, but I feel pulled to it. You feel crazy, right? You feel crazy in the process.
Yep.
Because all your life you've been told you're an ugly duck, and you don't even know what a swan is.
Yeah.
You don't know what it means to be a swan.
There's a lot of mother wounding of like jealous mothers who are jealous of their daughters' abilities and talents. And so they don't give them the kudos and whatever. And at the right time, it's creepy. Let's move on. Yeah. Fear is an illusion. So we make it all up. And man, what you just were describing, it's like, yeah, creating a problem outside of self, right? Making up all this stuff. Like, I love Kyle Cease video on YouTube. And what is the title? I never seem to keep that in my head. It's about this guy who's in love with a porn star, and like, should he dump her? And Kyle Cease goes into super deep psychology, and the bottom line is that's not the problem, right? The problem isn't the problem. I was talking about that with Paula Burt in her interview. Right? Yeah. It's like, it's just a decision, an internal decision that you get to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what fear does is it's like a black hole that just like sucks your energy in. Yeah. And, I've noticed this for me in the last year, like specifically around money. It's like when fear comes up, it's like it literally moves you nowhere. It serves you not at all. It does absolutely nothing. Like, what problem have you ever solved in your life because you were fearful enough to make it through? Okay. Like, nothing. Never. Doesn't work out. Not a good thing. It's just a total drain.
Yeah.
And so that's where the illusion comes from, where it's like fear wants you to think if you just are fearful enough, it will like motivate you to a solution.
Right.
But like going into the, decide you are the magic is like our next one. It's like you make the decision that, okay, fear, I hear you, I see you, like I got it. But then you decide that that's not the truth. That's not reality. Reality is, okay, I've got an unexpected bill. Yeah. Like, it is what it is, right? It's not going anywhere. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to harm you. Yeah. Even if there are creditors hounding you, like, you're going to be fine. Like, yep. To be able to be that grounded in your body and then say, okay, what am I going to do? Like, the solution is not to fret and, stress out and worry about the bill. The solution is, okay, I want to, I want to take these steps. I want to get these clients. I want to do this. And, and doing that because it's like the fear comes up to teach you. The fear comes up to show you where you're still in lack, where you're still hiding, where you're still in scarcity.
Right.
And so that shift is to put your energy elsewhere, to put your energy in reality.
Yeah, right. And I want to, it's still in lack, so the next level of that is I choose to. This is what and then actually go do it, right? That next step.
Yep.
This is the next step. And I want is like, what is the outcome, right? And it can have its shadow side and not. What is the outcome I am choosing? Okay, now I'm going to take that next step to create it. Even though I don't even believe it's possible, I can still take that next step towards it. Because there's plenty of success stories out there, right? And kids do it all the time. My husband saw a bike in the window and nobody in town had that bike. It was a banana seat bike. You can tell how old we are. And he got it. He figured it out. The kid from the tiny little trailer in town, he figured it out and he got his bike and, he was talk of the town, let me tell you. And he didn't get it for that reason. It was just cool and he'd never seen one before. And it was like, he just saw that bike and he is like, that's my bike. We belong together, right? I love it.
Yeah, I feel like that's
doesn't he?
What was that?
He kind of does the same with wives too, doesn't he? I saw you and I knew I was marrying you. I'm like, you want to marry me? When do you want to have 2 weeks, take your time. Okay then.
But that's what happens, and what I've seen happen in my life when you actually tap into your soul and you tap into who you are. Yeah. Like the absolute depth and clarity of who you are. And you're not in the fear illusion and you're not in the ego and you're not in, all of that gunk. Yeah. And you're not worried about what other people think and you're not worried about all that. It's like, okay, who the fuck am I? And really tap into that. Decide that that's who you are. And the word decision, it means like to decide. It's like scission. You think of like scissors, incision, it's cutting off. Yeah. So when you make a decision, you cut off all of that other bullshit and you come into yourself. And so then when things show up in your life that are like a reflection of your true self, you're just like, yep. So you come into yourself, and if you tap into, say, like your divine masculine as a woman, and then the man shows up in your life that's a representation of that energy, you're just like, fuck yeah. Right. It's like, you just are like, yep. And that's what's missing in the ugly duckling story and that initiation. Yeah. Like the duckling is so confused about who they are because no one has ever like reflected that to them. And it's literally in the reflection, right? Like it's literally in the reflection in the water that the duckling is like, oh my God, I'm one of them.
The big aha.
Oh, that gives me goosebumps.
It's just really beautiful when you find your tribe. And it very much is about listen to your womb. And I'm all about like we can float around and just ignore our bodies. It's easy. It's the work, if you will, is getting it down into that second chakra. And it's not work. It's only work if you fight it. It's easy to get it down there. Just do it, stay out of your head. I mean, I've got a simple exercise for it, right? So, and you do too. Anyways, that fully embodied soul where the masculine and the feminine energy are married together, serving one another. The masculine knows when to start, knows when to stop. It's all about the boundaries and keeping us from burnout. And yeah, I love it. Okay, keep going. So yeah, own your power. That's basically where we're at. And embody your sexual power. And then invest your energy. What are your thoughts on invest your energy?
Well, as you know, in my writing and in my teachings, I've referred to sexuality as who you are and how you relate to other people. And I recently found out that the root of the word sex comes from sext, which is like to separate. And so there's this there's this sexuality being this desire to reconnect, this desire to like come together.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's just totally in line with like that energy of who I am, which we're just talking about, and owning our power, and then how I relate to other people. And relationships are everything. Communication is everything. You can't go through a week of life without interacting with other people. And so what we've talked about, like saying no, fitting in, all of that, it's like, how are you investing your energy in those relationships? Where do you need to say no? How do you need to set those boundaries? And in the story of the Obscene Goddess, like the investment of energy that we see from Dimitri, this distraught mother, like it says she's like, basically like, I have this image of her kind of floating over the lands, like, you know, like flying over, just like scouring every corner
she was out of her
earth.
body, and I'm sure that's exactly what she was doing, right?
And it says she's just disheveled, and like her hair's a mess, and she's dirty, and it's just like, I mean, the woman has obviously not made herself a priority in this search, and all of her energy has been invested in this goose chase, this wild goose chase, you know, and it's like she's so distraught, she's so in the fear illusion that there's no clarity, there's no like real investment of energy, because like you said, she's so out of her body, she's so in this like, how am I going to find my daughter,
dropping deeper and deeper into hopelessness.
Yeah, she's disconnected from her mother's, you know, intuition, and there's not that wisdom about it. And so her investment is all into this like grief and sadness and just depression, really, like just totally disheveled state. And what shifts that, like what breaks through that, is the Obscene Goddess. You know, she comes up, like you said, her nipples are her eyes, her labia are her lips. It's just a body, right? Like there's no head. This is the head. This is the
vagina or the lips, right?
Yeah. So like her body is her head, her like that. There's no separation.
It's the Obscene Goddess body is the kind of like the sexual organs, right? So her eyes are the nipples and her lips are the vagina. Right? And there's some
so it becomes like a total integration.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
like
where body and soul, absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Which is your place of healthy detachment too.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing about it is Dimitri was in her own underworld experience, and her daughter, because her daughter like hadn't gotten there on her own, so to speak, either. She was taken by Hades, right? And brought there. Anyways, like you're going to get there one way or another. We will have our underworld experiences that we so desperately need to take us to the different stages of initiation. Or we can wake the fuck up and take a look at those shifts and, you know, be a little more conscious. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure. I've seen that in my life where I would say like last year, I won't go into all of the details and all the story. I would just say I spent last year dating for the first time in my life.
Yeah, right?
And it was like the level of embodied learning that provided me is like, there's no experience that could surpass that. But it got to a point where I was like, you know, I'm pretty much done learning my lessons this way because it's painful and it's exhausting and I don't feel nourished and I don't feel held and I don't feel like this is like truly what I want. Like, I don't want to date for the rest of my life. This isn't fun.
Right.
So like looking at that and being like, yeah, you know, I want to keep growing. I'm always going to want to keep growing and learning, but I would much prefer this happen in a way that like continues to lift me up and, you know, ascend and elevate and just, yeah, like hit new levels without having to dredge myself through the muck and the shit and the, you know, whatever. It's like, no, I can do this from a, like you said, a more conscious place. And so the shift that happened for me was then like, okay, now the relationship that I'm in, my challenges feel very different. So the challenge now is not, it's not just a struggle. It's not just heavy. It's not just this like consuming death to go through.
Right.
It's like, oh, like now I have to practice being really vulnerable. Now I have to practice showing up completely uninhibited. Now I have to practice showing up without a filter.
Yep.
And then I'm doing it. And the feedback that I get is like, oh my God, I'm so glad that you feel safe to show up this way. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, what? Like I
yeah, and you can go back to the whole cycle again, then in fearing what you've now just invested all this time and emotion into as well, right? So it's still the same journey of staying conscious and really having that love for yourself with those healthy boundaries for yourself, and continually like radaring and, you know, allowing the world to check in with you and you with the world as to who you're allowing in your personal space.
Yeah, that's huge. Because when you think of investing too, like when you invest money, you get interest in return. Like, so wherever you're investing it, like expect the return to be more. And that's whether it's a positive thing, a negative thing, like it will pay you dividends, whether you like it or not.
Money is the root of all evil. No, money's an energy. If you're a jerk, you'll just be more of a jerk.
Yeah. And I think too, to the point of, you know, what you're saying about just the level of consciousness and self-awareness, what I've learned is that the like investment, like if you make a financial investment hastily, then it's not usually a very wise decision. Like you need to slow down.
Yeah.
And when everything is an emergency in your life and everything is urgent, then you can't do these things. You can't have a embodied experience of your soul. You can't own your power. You're not speaking your truth. You're not saying no. Like you're in this constant fight or flight. Like everything has to be taken care of now. Everything has to be done now. And that just completely wigs out your hormonal system. And it's like you can't have, I don't think you can have a fully lived life in that state.
No.
And it reminds me, you know, we've talked a lot as we're talking about the Obscene Goddess, a story about my mom and her friends and their dirty jokes.
Yeah, I love this story.
I was, you know, it was when I was very small. So probably like 6, 8, 10 age range. And this is like before we could send each other things on our phones and, you know, do like send funny memes to each other. And this is like, my mom didn't even have email. So my mom's friend had email and would print out these like stacks of jokes and bring them over to my parents' house. And they would be like, you know, huddled together in the corner of the kitchen or something, or, you know, by the sink. I remember them like, you know, and they're both reading them and laughing their asses off. And it was always very clear, like, this is an adult thing. You're not allowed to see this. And occasionally there would be one that they're like, okay, you can see this page.
Oh, funny.
You know? And I just remember always being like, I want to be in that club. Yeah, like, right. I want to know what's up. And so it's been beautiful, like, as an adult, like, to realize that, like, I'm kind of, like, now those things are okay. Like, things get said around me with my parents' friends that I'm like, oh, this is what was going down the whole you know, way back when. And it's, you know, the thing about like laughter and the thing about humor and that level of connection and just sort of freedom, like, is an energy of slowing down, and it's an energy of lightening the pace. Yeah. And it's an energy of celebration, right? It's just like, we're so present here. Like when people are really laughing and like having a good time, like you don't doubt like where their head is, or if they're like really present or enjoying themselves.
Right.
And so it puts you in such a different state, because it's like the whole purpose of laughing and the whole purpose of all of this is just to have a human experience. It's just to enjoy ourselves. It's just to be here with each other and connect and communicate.
Yeah.
And there's not this like goal oriented, like, you know, what are we doing with our time? And like that, like hyper focus on, I don't know if productivity is the right word, but just that, like, you know, go, do,
That linear stuff.
kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and author Paul Smith calls that allowing. And I love, you know, what I'm learning from him these days too. Can't wait to learn some more. So yeah, very cool. And you have an amazing gift for everybody. I absolutely love your book, Worship Her. I'm so honored to have been asked to be a part of supporting you and birthing that baby, being your doula, being your midwife, and get a damn thing done in 30 days. What did you like write for a month, and then it was like, Steena, this is a crap, and you are not a crappy writer. But it was about pulling you into that soul alignment and just going boom, 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 thinking onesies. And wow, we got your 12 chapters, and we just went, and you get that thing filled in. And I just recorded you, and I just dumped it all in there. It was so beautiful. And threw a few of your blog posts in there too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the whole book. It says 2 chapters, which it was before. And I have just upgraded that essentially. I'm like, you know what? Just read the whole thing. Like, I've gotten emails from people that are like, I opened the book, you know, yesterday evening, and like, I didn't go to bed until it was finished.
Oh,
like,
yeah, it's a great
just
toilet
plow
book.
through it.
You
So.
can read it and put it down, read it, put it down, or you can just gun it, because it's doable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. And it's potent, people. You won't be sorry you grabbed that one. And it's very how cool is that? Well, thank you so much for that very generous gift, Steena. And you guys can, you know, go to steenamarie.com, or if you know, forget, go back to your email and just click the link. It'll get you there as well.
Yep.
Cool beans.
Awesome.
All right, my dear. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you, Linda. So fun.
It always is. All right, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.